He's the author of Great Answers to Tough Questions at Work, published by Wiley.
The Express newspaper says every briefcase and bookshelf should have a copy.
The book has been endorsed by the Chartered Institute of Management, which is why you will see an emblem on the front saying Management Gold. Fantastic.
As a one-time political journalist from Australia and as a former foreign correspondent, he's been trained to ask the toughest possible questions. But he's here tonight to help us answer them.
He has put the principles of his book into action.
He is the one and only Michael Dodd.
Michael Dodd.
Imagine you have just given the best presentation of your life. They loved your stories. They laughed in all the right places. At times, they were a bit teary. And every person in the audience, except for one, gave you a thunderous standing ovation. And then it happened. The question and answer session. And sure enough, the microphone went to that one person who didn't stand up. And he asked you the worst possible question. It's the kind of question that you wake up the night before and said to yourself, I hope they don't ask me that. It happens in India too, sir. Yeah. Amazing. So it's not just a British-Australian phenomenon. That's interesting. So thank you for coming all the way from India to tell us that. The president of the Speaking Association in India, no less.
Hi, my name is Martin Booth and I'm a former journalist, which meant I was particularly interested in the talk I just listened to by Michael Dodd about how to deal with difficult questions from the audience.
What is that question for you? Think about it. At some stage, we might even find out what it is. But the good news is, there's one thing we can guarantee about this session. It will be fun. Because what that actually means is it'll be fun for me, which is why I can guarantee it. Because I get to challenge you with your blowtorch-on-the-belly question. That's a technical term from the world of Australian journalism.
So I've just seen Michael Dodd giving a great talk about his answers to the blowtorch-on-the-belly questions, as he calls them. And it was really great talk. He gives a kind of formula as to how to answer questions.
The different structures you can put in place so that you can anticipate the difficult, awkward questions that come from the audience.
It's really useful for whether you're a high-up politician or a mere mortal like me.
There is some good news, and that is, however brilliant you are at answering tough questions, or however atrocious you are, by the end of this little session, you will be better placed. The key to this is to get across a message. Now, a really good answer does answer the question, but if it's a great answer, it tends to have a message. Typically, a positive message. Now, it doesn't have to be positive, it can be a negative message, but overwhelmingly, positive messages tend to work.
Michael Dodd gave a cracking session this afternoon, brilliant keynote. I got a really great tip, which was not necessarily worrying too much about the answer to the question, but to the message that you're trying to give across. And I thought that was fantastic advice to allow you to think about giving an appropriate answer to a really tough question.
So ask yourself the question, not what's the answer to the question, I've got to think of it. What's my opinion about Brexit? What am I going to say about this business person I've never heard of? Actually think, what is the best thing you can say on that topic? Now, that won't necessarily, it sometimes does give you an answer, but it actually gives you a positive thought about what you could say. And what I'm really looking for is for you to think about a message. Now, when I say message, it's usually a few short, sharp words, but it doesn't have to be a slogan. It's not like something that's really snappy. It's just something that you can be saying to yourself that you can come back and anchor yourself. So if you're getting a lot of these follow-up questions about it, your message on the topic can stay the same. So one of my messages for you, even though I haven't said it explicitly, is that learning how to give great answers to tough questions is a learnable skill. And we're going to learn it tonight. So, that is my positive message. So it's not particularly slick, but it is something that is underpinning my way I'm operating here.
One of the crucial things in answering questions is to get into what I personally call outcome-focused communication. You want to think about what is the result I want to have of this answer, just as you might think, what's the result I want to have? What do I want my audience thinking, doing, feeling at the end of my talk? Same for the answers. And every question, every heckle that comes to you is an opportunity for you to, in sporting terms, kick a goal in football or hit a goal in hockey, yeah? So every time it comes to you, I want you to take control, but take control of the language as well, so that you're kicking a goal or hitting a hockey goal every time it comes to you.
And one of the ways you do that is to get across your message. And typically you want to have that message in your mind before you enter the potential lion's den of the Q&A. Okay, what does your audience need? Now, your audience need clear, accurate information, yeah? And nothing other than an exact truth. Don't bend the truth to please them or because it'll catch up with you. I did a speech in Kansas City a little while ago, and around the breakfast table and at other times we were talking about a particular personality in America. And funnily enough, he's fairly well regarded these days, but he once said something which didn't seem to be true. He said something like, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Miss Lewinsky," right? And then there was all sorts of evidence, something to do with a dress and various things that Miss Lewinsky said and other things that kind of gave the impression that it wasn't true. Now, what do the media do in that instance? They play it again and again and again. What does your audience do if you make up something that isn't true? Next time you're up there, they will remind you. There's always someone there who'll sort of be in the front row, being quietly there, scratching their chin, and they'll come out and they'll strike. Yeah, and so didn't you say last time this or whatever? So beware of that. You're going on the record, so own the exact truth. Next one, straight to the point. Yeah, and jargon-free. Now, there's quite a few different specialties in this room. Sure, we're all speakers, but there's different areas of expertise, and within those areas of expertise, there is jargon. And typically, when you're answering a question on the public stage, even if you're in the area where that jargon is, there's probably going to be some people who don't know what it is, and you want to be inclusive. So there is a little acronym called the KISS principle, which even works even in times of the coronavirus. You're allowed to use it, and that is keep it simple, stupid. Yeah. Now, don't talk down to them by that, but do simplify jargon, and really good communicators, such as that businessman, Sir Richard Branson, that we've been talking about. He is very good. Why does he get lots of media coverage over time? Because I know he's been media trained. I happen to know that. I didn't do it myself, but I do know that it has happened. And he's good media value because he talks in a way that everybody can understand. And that's typically what I want you to be doing too. Don't throw in jargon words to impress people if you're leaving people behind. And straight to the point. That's important. Yeah. This might be almost the time to turn the camera off, but I want you to kind of basically get a key thing out really early on. And the way to remember it is that getting straight to the point is like the opposite of sex. Because, oh, you're interested in sex, sir? Yeah. I remember what it was, yeah. Right, yeah. Well, the reason it's the opposite of sex is because the climax should come at the start. Right? Now, don't try that at home, all right? But in the field of questions and answers, if you can actually say something really early on in your answer, that's a climactic moment, which is good, right? The next one, stories. Now, speakers do tell stories. Stories have power. Stories can change the world, right? And typically, often in your prepared presentation, if you've done a great job, you will have some stories. But what I want you to do is remember, put often shorter little stories, real life examples in your answers. So you're painting a picture in the minds of your audience so that they can see what you mean. And whatever you've said and whatever your message is becomes so much clearer because you've painted a picture with a story. And I want to just at this point give you a little bit of theory. It's the only bit of theory for the night, which is the theory to do with something called the ladder of abstraction. Abstraction being abstract stuff that is hard to actually see quite often. And what I want you to do is just imagine I've got a ladder here, and on the ladder is abstract stuff at the top. Your message that you've come up with is probably a bit on the abstract side, but that's fine. Yeah. But down the bottom is concrete, real examples. Now, what really good communicators do is they go up and down this ladder a lot. What really bad communicators do is they get stuck at one end of the ladder or the other. So if you take a typical archetype ivory tower professor, yeah, he's likely to be stuck up the top of the ladder. Sure, he's an expert in astrophysics. He may even understand Einstein's theory. But could he explain it to someone in Sainsbury's or in Morrison's? Possibly not. Yeah? Partly because he won't come down the ladder and give a concrete, real example that everyone can see and understand, right? Now, the other sort of bad communicator is probably someone you might have met at some stage. Not tonight, because everyone's fascinating here tonight. They are people who get stuck in the detail, so much so that they never go up the ladder and give you the overall idea of what they're talking about. They might, you're nodding your head there, they might latch onto you in a pub. I was like, hey, start telling all these details about, down the road, there's this company there, and Mrs. Myrtle, the cleaner, comes in on Saturday. She's meant to be cleaning, and she nicks the paper clips. Yeah, and they give you all the details about the inside thing, but you don't know why they're telling you this or what it means, because they're not going up to give you a kind of helicopter, top of the ladder view of it. Yeah, so what I want you to be doing is abstract, concrete, go between the two. Yeah, and just to put the picture in your minds firmly, I just want to actually paint a picture so that you remember the ladder of abstraction and to come down from the message abstract zone into concrete, real example territory. And this is a little way of remembering it. As a speaker, I sometimes speak with the United Nations, and I need to help people in Africa to give great answers to the media.
The thing about flying across Africa is that it's really big. It's even bigger than Australia.
Can you believe it? Yeah. If you're flying across Africa, there's a lot of life. So I want you to have as your abstract concept all the life in Africa.
Now, it's a bit difficult to get a picture of that because there's so much of it. There's different plants, there's different animals, there's different landscapes, there's different tribes, there's different immigrant groups.
So all the life in Africa is a bit hard to comprehend. If we come halfway down the ladder, I want you to picture all the elephants in Africa.
That's a lot easier, isn't it? You can see those elephants. Imagine we got them all lined up, trunk to tail, tromping through the jungles, yeah? You can see those elephants, yeah?
And then if we go right down the bottom of the ladder, I just want to give you an example of one life in Africa. He's a giraffe, or he was a giraffe. Unfortunately, he died not so long ago. His name was Jock the giraffe, and Jock the giraffe lived in a giraffe sanctuary in Kenya, just outside the capital, Nairobi. And when you paid your money to go into the giraffe sanctuary, then the first thing you see, apart from all the giraffes, and Jock is a particularly tall giraffe, he was a particularly big boy, and so as a result of that, he was particularly interested in food, because there was a lot of Jock to feed. And Jock was also pretty smart.
The giraffes can roam for miles around, but Jock doesn't go that far, yeah? Jock hangs around the entrance because that's where the tourists come in, and that's where the first thing you see, apart from the giraffes, is the giraffe viewing platform. It's a wooden structure, and you climb up there, and on the platform is a bucket.
And in the bucket is some round yellow fluffy stuff, and here's the technical term jargon, it's called giraffe food.
And you can actually pick them up, scoot them up, and hold them out, and Jock will come over, he'll lower down his towering neck, you get to see his big brown eyes, which are about that big, he'll stick out his tongue, which is kind of bluey grey and really slobbery, and he will slurp up all the giraffe food from your hands and wait for you to go back to the bucket and get him some more.
Can you see Jock the giraffe? Can you hear him slurping up the giraffe food? Yeah? Can you feel how yucky and sticky your hands get? Yeah, I can tell that. When they're covered in giraffe slobber. Yeah. You're going to remember this. Yeah. Yeah, can you see that even despite the giraffe slobber, you've probably got feelings for him. And what for Jock the giraffe? You haven't now. He's put you off.
So what have I done? I've gone from the top of the ladder, all the life in Africa, which is hard to see, right down the bottom to give you one example that you can see, that you can hear, that you can actually feel on your skin.
And that you possibly got some feelings for, except you. Yeah. Well, you got feelings, but they're strong and they're opposite of what everyone else is up. But there we are. That's fine, yeah?
And that's what you need to do when you're answering tough questions, but you can also do it in your talks as well, yeah? Paint pictures in the minds of people so that they remember your message. So you've got the message, which is abstract, but you come down the ladder and you paint that picture in your minds.
Don't just think we want the facts, yeah? Because the facts can be a bit dull and dry. I mean, they can be fascinating facts, but they're not necessarily. So typically in your great answer, you want a balance between some fact and emotion. If it's all facts, it's too dry and dusty typically. If it's all emotion, it's kind of out of control. So what you want is a balance between the two. And how do you get that? Typically, it's in the story. Yeah? So your real life example can often touch on emotions and facts together. And that's a good thing for giving a great answer. Now, the other thing I want to do, just to conclude on a positive, is to take you back to a negative. Back in the days when I lived in a place called Australia, there was a situation where the Department of Education had a bit of a crisis on their hands because they had printed the equivalent of the A-level exams, the higher school certificate in New South Wales, and lots of them were stolen. And some of them were being sold on the street to interested parties before the exams had taken place. And there was a very memorable cartoon on the front of the Sydney Morning Herald. And in the cartoon, there was a kid who was drawn in such a way as in less politically correct times, you would call him a dunce. Yeah? Not looking very bright. But he wasn't that dumb because he's going up in the cartoon to someone who's selling the exam papers on the street corner and he says, I know you want $50 for the questions. How much do you want for the answers? And he knew that the answers were more important than the question, and you know that however tough, mean, nasty, ignorant the questions are, they will always be trumped by a well thought out, well planned, well delivered answer. And who controls the answers? You do. All the best to them.
Thank you ever so much.
I would thoroughly recommend booking Michael if you need to get answers to difficult questions.
If you've not seen Michael Dodd speak, you should certainly get along to one of his gigs soon because he's an absolute cracker.
Very useful. Thank you very much, Michael.